Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, as you will hear us discuss at great length at the end of this show, you only get one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Let's do it!
Well, Uncle Dan.
Yes, sir.
We are in the midst of yet another show, and this one goes both shallow and deep, I hope. So I will talk a little bit about the true lineage of the British royal family, and I think that'll be an exciting time for all of us.
Yes, indeed. It'll be eye-opening, but will the eyes open vertically or horizontally is the question.
We'll find out.
Then Uncle Doug's going to take us on a game show through bullshit.
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna play for cash and prizes, and we'll see if any of us are sorry about it at the end. And then you wanted to do something kind of deep and meaningful, and we'll see how that goes, because that's not really our brand. Yeah,
it's a little off-brand for us to actually do anything that matters at all. But we're gonna attempt it and see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully we'll nail the dismount. So join us, won't you?
Let's do a show. Well, Uncle Boys, friends up there in the Great White North.
Yes, Uncle Dan.
There are people in this world who have very interesting views, who have made it their life's work to get out there and say things to the world.
Yes.
And Uncle Mark, I believe that you've got somebody that you want to tell us all about.
I sure do, and it's important that all ideas are the same, and they're all equal, and all of them deserve equal respect. That's the whole point of this podcast.
That's correct. Everyone deserves equal respect. All ideas deserve equal respect.
That's right. That's right.
That's just a fact.
Teach the controversy.
Right. If this podcast is anything, it is an audio coexist bumper sticker. So in the spirit of that, pardon me. Today we're going to meet. This crosses several segments, I think. We have our Who Is That segment where we meet interesting personages. This is certainly that. We have our Watch Out for Woo, where we tell people to ease up on the accelerator when they're looking for something after religion. And this certainly is that. And it's also a Meet The, because this person has a following that is a little fanatical. So let's delve into our friend David Icke.
Woohoo!
David Icke.
So David Icke he was born in England in 1952, and he is a blue ribbon kook, or as they might say over there, a nutter. His whole backstory is semi-interesting. He started life as a frightened loner, which led him to a short and unremarkable career as a soccer goalie.
Sure.
Which led him to a short and semi-remarkable career as a regional sportscaster. Which led to an ever so slightly notable career as a Green Party politician. So, good job with all that, David Icke. But what really got him noticed was a press conference he gave in 1991, in which he told the world that he was a son of the Godhead. He told reporters the world was going to end in 1997. It would be preceded by a hurricane around the Gulf of Mexico and New Orleans.
Whoa.
Eruptions in Cuba. Disruptions, whatever that means, in China, a hurricane in Derry, an earthquake on the Irish Isle of Arran, and that this information was being given to him by voices and automatic writing. More about that in just a sec.
That's pretty impressive. That's a lot of very tangible, testable claims to make.
Go big or go home.
Granularly specific claims. So
yeah.
He said Los Angeles would become an island, New Zealand would disappear, and the cliffs of Kent would be underwater by Christmas. So,
in fairness to him, I've never seen New Zealand. So,
right,
might have happened.
I don't think there are cliffs of Kent. whoever he is. But automatic writing. So a little aside. Automatic writing is something we could do an entire segment on because it's kind of amazeballs. It's essentially the speaking in tongues of people with a stationary obsession. So automatic writing is the spirits move you to write, right? It's kind of a one-man Ouija board.
Right.
So
Super
he claims,
useful.
Yeah. So he did this in front of the world, which is kind of amazing. So David Icke had begun to flirt with woo and hooey in the early 80s because he was bedeviled by arthritis in his joints, which had cut short his unremarkable footballing career. So in his search for alternative cures for the pain, it led him into a different time, a new age, if you will, of spiritual exploration. This, of course, eventually led him to Peru, where he stood by a pre-Inca burial site and understood people would be talking about this moment in 100 years, and he felt like he was being electrocuted.
It's very Joseph Smithian, only with the electrocution being a fun little addition to it.
Yeah, he's got nice updates to the same old shtick, right? So some nice early 20th century updates. So, but before that shocking day in Peru, Icke had been having his consciousness raised by Betty Shine, an English psychic who told him she had a message from Wang Yi Li of the spirit world. I don't know who that is, and nobody does. So
neither does she.
Icke, exactly. Icke, she said, had been sent to heal the earth and would become famous, but would face opposition. The spirit world was going to pass ideas to him, which he would speak about to others. Well, that's nice. He would write 5 books in 3 years. This is all part of the prophecy. He would write 5 books in 3 years. In 20 years from 1990, which was 2010, a new flying machine would allow us to go wherever we wanted at whatever speed, and time would have no meaning. And there would be earthquakes in unusual places because the inner earth was being destabilized by having oil taken from the seabed.
I was hoping that it was being destabilized by like times fluctuations, since we're now like time traveling and it has no meaning and stuff.
Or maybe vibrations. That's called foreshadowing.
Don't ever tell anybody. Tell Ike about. Nobody tell him about crystals. It'll just ruin everything.
I think he passed that crazy milepost 1,000 years ago. So, and of course, all of this naturally led to his turquoise period, in which Icke would wear only turquoise, most often tracksuits, because, as we all know, turquoise is a conduit for positive healing energy.
And tracksuits are a conduit for sexy.
Right, for looking good at the bus stop. So this inevitably led to the middling Green Party politician blowing up his career in that bizarre first press conference and being cruelly ridiculed in a couple press interviews that followed, where he was really kicked around by these reporters. So the Green Party cut him off, and he was all alone, sad and dejected in a puddle of suddenly not so positively vibrating turquoise nylon. But as we know, Dan, when one eye closes, a third one opens. After a period of seclusion, Icke came out swinging, publishing 5 books of utter dreck in a few short years, including The Truth Vibrations, Love Changes Everything, and Heal the World, a do-it-yourself guide to personal and planetary healing.
I'm pretty sure at least 2 of those were like multiple band songs from the 80s.
Yeah, they're supergroups made those songs, right?
Right, vibrations.
So the book sold like hotcakes to a population with the baffling combination of literacy and the ability to believe some profoundly idiotic hokum. He became a very popular speaker and media star. So I guess the note that I would have here is any backbencher politician out there, there's money to be made in setting yourself on fire in front of a microphone. So things were going pretty well for Old Crazy until his book, The Robots' Rebellion, hit the shelves. Dan, we've talked a little about a children's collection of Jew-hating propaganda called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion before here on the show.
Indeed, we have.
Yes,
it's a real page turner, that one.
It's a real page turner, and we will do a full segment on that because it pops up in surprisingly frequent places, especially these days. But David, unfortunately, used it as a template for what would become his defining conspiratorial masterwork. When this
shit.
was pointed out to him, he immediately went into damage mode, replying, well, yeah. So, you guys, in brief, what is David Icke's definitive contribution to the field of vibratory philosophical sewer clogs?
I'm guessing it has something to do with lizards.
Warm.
Yeah, I got nothing.
All right, well, in brief, it is that an advanced race of reptile-human hybrids who vibrated here from the lower fourth dimension, from the 46 light-year distant constellation of Draco, which means giant lizard in Greek, get it? Lizard people, Draco, and used the artificially built rings of Saturn to transmit a series of holograms called simply reality through a resonant and hollow moon to Earth to control the media via such personages as Queen Elizabeth's late mother and Ted Heath. Which Ted Heath, you ask? The Conservative Party MP who served as Prime Minister from 1970 to 1974. That Ted Heath.
Right, of course.
It's the perfect plan.
Exactly. With such blockbuster media figures like that, how can world domination be far behind, right?
Right. Well, I mean, if you're going to use the moon as your conduit, go for the Queen Mother. That's what you really want.
Yeah, and remember, it's a hollow moon.
Yeah, and are we? I assume we're going to touch on some of these, but they vibrated here.
Yeah, so when he was confronted about the problems of interstellar travel, he said, well, they don't have ships, they just vibrate. But in earlier books, he'd talked about their ships. So,
all right.
Yeah, it's evolving.
I just like the idea that somehow, like, the sound that they all make as they talk to each other is just...
Well, and they're actually controlled by higher beings in the fifth dimension. Because there's an infinite number of dimensions occupying the same space and time at all times.
Are we in the third dimension in this narrative?
I've not been authorized to tell you which dimension you're currently in. You're in the Canada dimension. So, back to our friend David. So using a salacious Russian imperial forgery that was made to gin up hatred against Jews in the waning days of an empire, desperate to keep the hungry masses from kicking in the doors and taking all the silver, as a bundt cake over which to frost a thick coat of conflating already maligned Jews with interdimensional lizards is perhaps insane, or a tad tone-deaf at best. But even some of Icke's critics, you'll be surprised to know there are many, defend him from the charge of anti-Semitism. And I think they're half right, mostly because Icke's, and I'm using air quotes here, philosophy is so dizzyingly incoherent and such a ticker-tape pastiche of everything that fell off the workbench of the entire human spectrum of religious invention. Here's one little aside. In one book, he says there was no historical Jesus, but that Christ is real and he loves him. In the same book.
Nice.
But that as he built his magpie's nest of bullshit, he's likely to weave in a racist twig or two as he goes. So let's talk a little bit more about that nest, shall we? Icke's a big believer in reincarnation, but big whoop, so's everybody's mom. His greatest hits are those involving the Archons, reptilian masters of the universe who appeared to humans as the Anunnaki. These were ancient Sumerian and Babylonian deities that Icke has identified as ancient astronauts. And as we all know, this is a bullshit beloved of people who think humans could never have built a pyramid or a henge.
Well, it's the summary premise. It's the most basic premise that underlies everything that the History Channel currently believes in.
That is exactly correct, and unfortunately the current works of Ridley Scott. So, so why did they come here? Why did these crossbred humans come here? And I think that's an excellent question. Why do you think, fellas?
For the cheese.
Something under the crust?
Pretty warm, both pretty warm. Our gold. Yes. They vibrated all this way for our monoatomic gold.
There's gold in that their solar system.
Wait,
somewhere out there.
What does monoatomic mean?
Nothing. It's not a thing. It's not real. But Icke claims it can increase the capacity of the nervous system 10,000-fold.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know,
monoatomic.
So you take one atom of gold, and then our nervous system gets better?
Monoatomic would mean that it is made of one atom.
Yeah.
Well, which is kind of true because it is an element, right?
Right. Or is it unpolluted or something? Is it pure?
It's just gold. So anyway, that's what they came for, is to take our gold, because it allows them, if they ingest it with their hyperdrive nervous system, they're already vibrating. I don't know why they need their nervous system amped up, but they can then process vast amounts of information and speed up transdimensional travel and, of course, shapeshift. It won't surprise you to know that he thinks all 45 U.S. presidents were or are lizard people, a claim getting harder and harder to disprove.
I was about to say, I might jump in with him on this one.
And that lizards started World War II in order to create the United Nations. When all they had to do was buy a building in New York.
Wait, what's the end game on that? Do you have any sense of why it benefits alien lizard people for the United Nations to exist?
World control. It's world government, right? That's the point. He's a new world order nutter. That's
I see.
Look, that's one of the things in his quilt, right? It's a pretty amazing, crazy quilt. So, naturally, since pedophilia is the worst thing most people can think of, they're all pedophiles as well. And this is an idea that haunts the fever dreams of every stripe of conspiracy theorist, including ones that go to shoot up pizza places without a basement.
Right.
His worldview reads like a crazy quilt of just insanity, like chemtrails, Agenda 21, 9/11 conspiracies, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, the United Nations, the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome, the Illuminati, Holocaust denial, World Bank and Federal Reserve night terrors, all in addition to the all-powerful reptilian space Jews that inhabit Buckingham Palace.
You left out Jade Helm 15. I'm sorry, but this proves everything he's talked about.
Yeah, it's only an hour show. So that's David Icke. He's the whole package. He's the conspiracy theorist. If you don't like what the international Jew media is feeding you, and you don't know you've had an active gas leak in your apartment for over a year, maybe David Icke is right for you.
All I can say is, everyone that I'm going to meet from here on out, I'm going to spread their eyelids wide, but I'm going to take them by surprise and spread their eyelids so that I can see if they're actually lizards under there.
Well, if you surprise them just right, their eyes will open plenty wide, and you'll see. Or they'll deploy their frills to look large.
If you meet somebody new, stand totally still and see what they do. If they can't find you, they're just kind of jabbing their hand out into space, trying to shake yours, but you're not moving.
They're just vibrating. And it's easy to laugh at this stuff, and it's almost impossible not to. But he has 200,000 followers on Twitter and 463 subscribers to his YouTube channel. God. And I can't imagine that many of them are ironic.
Oh, no.
Although I hope they are.
I know that I'm going to start following the guy. That's a promise from this guy right here.
So, in closing, I'd like to leave you with a quote that will wrap up this whole lizard podcast just perfectly. So, Mr. Icke, and I quote, "We are living in a dream world within a dream world, a matrix within the virtual reality universe, and it is being broadcast from the moon. Unless people force themselves to become fully conscious, their minds are the moon's minds." The end.
Well,
that's David Icke, folks.
What a
with
pleasure.
that in our moon minds, let's maybe move on.
Let's moon on. Well, Dan.
Yeah.
There are, as we've always discussed, lots of ideas out there, and some of those ideas are so cockamamie, they're so kooky that sometimes somebody comes along with a way to kind of put a little sugar with the medicine and help it go down. And Uncle Doug is famous for both sugar and medicine.
He calls it medicine anyway.
Right. Right. It is a form of medication.
Sure.
With a street value. So, Uncle Doug is here to introduce us to a new segment that might have something to do with a spoonful of sugar.
Exactly. So, this is the second week in a row I've introduced a new segment, so this is kind of exciting for me.
Don't get cocky. Don't get cocky. There will be no third week.
Uncle Mark and Uncle Dan, any religion that has survived into the modern era is carrying beliefs, dogmas, and traditions that no one ever thought would have to stand up to modern biology, archaeology, physics, genetics, the internet. Therefore, these religions have had to develop ornate, not so convincing and often very silly explanations for their bullshit to make it palatable in the modern world. These explanations are called apologetics.
Yes.
Indeed.
So today we're going to play a new game that delves into these apologetics that we're calling Square That Circle.
Ba-ba-ba-da.
So Cody is where you put in the crowd noises, the jingle,
all the
maybe
things.
some studio audience. Perfect.
Not for nothing, but I'm pretty sure that Mark and I just put in the crowd noises and the jingle.
Yeah,
So-
Cody, cut those out and put in the good stuff. All right. So today's edition of Square That Circle is an all Book of Mormon edition.
Oh.
Wow,
Why does the
okay.
Book of Mormon need apologetics?
Yeah, I know.
As you know,
That's a recent one. They should
the
have
Book of
already
Mormon
known
is-
about some of the things.
well, they should have. It's funny because when Joseph Smith was writing the Book of Mormon, a lot of the things he was writing were being disproven while the ink was still wet.
Yeah.
That's true.
The Book of Mormon is chock full of anachronisms or bullshit. These are things that belong in a time and space other than where they're being referred to. So there's a vast amount of Mormon apologetics for these anachronisms, and most of the apologetics we'll discuss today come from a website called fairmormon.org,
Yes.
which, if you haven't spent time on that website, it's actually quite entertaining.
Does anybody know? Look, any listeners out there? We have plenty of listeners in the Mormon spectrum. Does anybody know anybody who works at that website?
That's a good question.
I would love to talk to one of them. That just seems like the saddest fucking job. I knew a woman whose job in college, she was a photography major. Her job in college was to take pictures of stillborns at the hospital because parents wanted a picture, and she would like make the blanket look all pretty around it and kind of clean up its face.
Oh my God.
That was sad. This working for fair.org is so fucking sad. I really would love to, first of all, just as a suicide prevention method, love to talk to somebody who works there. But honestly, if you're some disaffected fair.org webmaster, you want to come talk to us, our DMs are open.
Boy, that would be an interesting conversation.
But let us see that sadness by exploring their work through this game.
So here we go. Here's how we're going to play. I am going to give you an anachronism from the Book of Mormon, and then a series of apologetics explaining that anachronism. Okay. And you guys have to guess which one of those is true.
Oh boy.
All right?
Okay.
No whammies.
All right. No whammies.
The secret word is Zarahemla.
All right. Number one. In the Book of Mormon, horses are mentioned.
B. Oh shit! Sorry, I jumped.
Correct. Number two. Horses are mentioned several times in the Book of Mormon. However, horses, as we know them today, were not indigenous to North America, and no evidence of their presence exists in pre-Columbian America because they were introduced by the Spanish in the early 16th century. So, how do Mormons square that circle? All right, the primary explanation is that horses never went extinct in the Americas because A smaller version of today's modern horses survived in the Americas, as evidenced by the fact that the Book of Mormon never explicitly says that anyone rode a horse, or that the chariots mentioned were never explicitly used in battle, and therefore may have been ceremonial.
Oh, okay.
B.
So wait, that was the tiny horse, too tiny for actual use, and that's why we don't know that they ever existed. Explanation.
That's right. That
Do you
tiny
guys
little horses.
remember from like the 80s, maybe the 70s, the Chuck Wagon commercials?
The little tiny Chuck Wagon.
Like it was a dog food commercial. And it was all of a sudden, yeehaw! And a little cowboy would run across the kitchen.
That's right.
What was that? A little stagecoach
Yeah.
would go across the kitchen. So it's like that. It was a ceremonial.
A ceremonial chariot.
It was a Book of Mormon train set, is what you're saying. Okay. I like
right.
that. I like that one.
B. The rich, highly acidic Mesoamerican soil destroyed all evidence of the smaller Book of Mormon version of the horse.
Hate it when that
C.
happens.
But it grows amazing coffee.
C. Joseph Smith was merely translating the Book of Mormon, and so the word horse, although clear to us, could have been referring to other creatures that were indeed native to the Americas at the time of the Book of Mormon, such as deer and tapirs. Okay? D. Actually, lots of evidence has been found proving that horses were indigenous to the Americas, but it has been discounted or covered up by a scientific community bent on discrediting the Mormon religion. And finally, E.
Oh my God, there's so many choices.
There's no reason to believe that a small enclave of mastodons, horses, and giant sloths survived in some small corner of the Americas, which is where the narrative of the Book of Mormon found them, but that this enclave has simply not been discovered yet.
Okay. I'm
gonna.
There's five choices.
Okay. Sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead there, Mark.
Well, there's 5 choices, and I'm mostly disappointed that there is not a 6th, which is all of the above, which probably is true. Dan, what were you going to say?
It does seem like any of these, probably any and all of these have been used by somebody at some point. But what seems most likely to me is that they're going to tell us that it was actually an alpaca the whole time.
So we're guessing. We need to guess what the right apologetic is, right? We're guessing what the fair Mormon
apologetic is for horses in the Book of Mormon. What's your best guess?
Yeah, I agree with Dan. It's going to be some kind of long-legged crocodile.
Well, Mark, you were actually correct, and there is no option F. It's all of the above.
Oh, yes. Is it? Okay, so the acidic soil?
The acidic soil is one explanation. There's like several explanations for horses. It's like throwing chaff. It's like, well, they were small horses. They disappeared. They were tapirs. The soil dissolved the bones.
Oh my God.
Locusts.
Yeah, so Doug, just describe for our listeners who live above the equator what a tapir is.
A tapir is, if anyone's seen the opening sequence of 2001: A Space Odyssey, they're the weird little tiny, like knee-high, like proto-elephant-looking creatures. They're just like pigs with long floppy snouts.
It's a jungle pig.
It's a jungle pig.
It's a jungle pig.
Yeah.
So clearly that's what Captain Nephi rode into battle. Captain Moroni rode into battle was a jungle pig.
Yeah.
Right.
And a little one at that. But you know what? These Lamanites, these former Jews, they were little. They could ride a tapir if they needed to.
And I love that, where this is said to have taken place, a lot of the story is Central America, right?
Right.
Which is replete with archaeological finds. Like, Mexico had, 7 pre-Columbian?
Replete with archaeological sites and archaeologists.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Constantly digging.
Right. Finding everything but substantially bodied horses. Okay, great.
Well,
okay.
There is that 12-foot by 12-foot stash of thousands of horse bones that they just haven't been able to dig up yet. They just didn't. They just haven't found that enclave yet.
One of these days. Okay.
If they find a tiny chariot for like a cat, I am going to pee my pants with joy. That will make me so happy.
All right. So I'm not going to cheat and have all of them be all of the above. That was kind of sneaky. So in the next one, only one of these answers is true.
Okay.
So number 2.
Come on, baby. I need that money.
In the Book of Ether, the Jaredites talked about their elephants and how they were the most useful of all the animals. Of course, elephants have never been indigenous to the Americas. So how do Mormons square that circle? A. In the climactic battle that destroyed the entire Jaredite civilization, it is likely that not only were all the living elephants killed, but theirs and their predecessors' bones were converted to weapons, as there would be nothing more useful for that purpose at the time. In fact, elephant bone weapons would be a striking technological leap, but the conversion would likely make their future identification difficult or impossible for modern-day archaeologists.
Okay, great. Yeah, because every single bone of every single elephant was weaponized.
And not only that, we found clear. I mean, because even at that, we would have found like evidence of bone weaponry, but apparently we didn't. I got nothing on that.
And while I am very, very, I'm leaning towards that being the true apologetic, it doesn't take into account that it doesn't matter what shape you put an elephant's bone into. There are these little things inside of it called DNAs that reveal what animal it came from.
Look what I found. It's a club. Put it back. We're looking for elephant bones.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. B. Given the density of the Mesoamerican jungle, it is likely that the Jaredite elephants never moved inland but spent their entire lives near the shores. Therefore, their remains would have been totally obliterated by tidal forces.
Oh, sure.
Right, because that's what the ocean does. Is there's no fossils in the ocean. There are no bones in the ocean at all.
Well, I don't know. You guys have heard of an elephant graveyard, right? It's just that Mesoamerican elephants liked to die in the sea.
Right, in a part of the sea where their bones haven't been found.
Walk out into the waves, sort of as far as their little trunk could snorkel them, and then they'd just die.
You're warmer than you know, Uncle Dan.
I love how many fucking things have to happen for that apologetic to work. The jungle was too thick for an elephant. Elephants who live in Thailand, right?
Right.
Exactly. The jungle was too thick for an elephant to walk through it. Great. I love it.
All right. C. Clearly, we're talking about domesticated mammoths here, guys. Why are you being such dicks? D. Elephants are known for their long memories, mostly because they make astounding journeys to die in their own burial grounds. Once the Jaredites had gone extinct, the remaining elephants could have found their way back to Asia via the Alaskan ice pack to return to their kind.
Shut the fuck up.
Leaving none behind, nor any remains.
So even in old age, none of them died of accidents or disease, right? They just, at a certain time, they were just like, well, time to walk back to Asia.
Yeah. All 3,000 of us that are the only ones that have lived this whole time.
Right.
Okay.
One of these four is the true apologetic for elephants in the New World.
All right, so say them again. The first one was...
the climactic battle, they turned their bones into weapons.
Yes.
They lived along the shoreline. They were domesticated mammoths, and they wandered off after the Jaredites were wiped out.
Now, before we get to the actual answer, can I just ask you, Doug, did you make up all of the other ones?
3 of these I made up myself.
It goes to show, like, the apologetics game
totally
is just...
Heyfair.org.
Right.
If anybody's listening.
Why is nobody hiring you, Douglas? You've got this. This is an easy thing for you.
Oh fuck!
It's too easy, unfortunately.
I don't know which one. Just because I like the hilarity of the scale of the project, I'm gonna go with every metacarpal and vertebrae and ear bone was turned into a weapon.
I like that one too. Although I'm gonna go with the one that jumped into my mind the second you mentioned elephants, which is they're all just domesticated mammoths.
Dan wins.
Oh,
it does not say in the Book of Mormon that they brought the elephants with them. So therefore, when they got here, they domesticated mammoths and put them to use.
And another time we'll talk about the mode of transportation they brought their animals with them in. And an elephant would be hilarious.
All right. Dan's up 5 points.
Fuck.
Okay, number 3. Brass, an alloy of copper and zinc, as well as steel, an alloy of iron and carbon, and steel weapons are mentioned in the Book of Mormon. Obviously, there was no steel weaponry when Columbus arrived because the exclusive use of that weapon by the conquistadors is one reason that the Native Americans were so freaking killable. However, steel did exist as long as 4,000 years ago. However, it wasn't even present in 600 BCE Jerusalem when Lehi, Nephi, and his bitchy clan left there to come to America.
Oh, wow.
Brass did not come along until much later. You might ask if this discredits the entire story that we have covered in this show about Laban and the plates of brass? Yes. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
There is no evidence of either ancient alloy in the Americas before Columbus. So how do Mormons square that circle?
Oh, hey. Boy. Okay.
Actually, lots of evidence has been found proving that steel and brass were present in the Americas, but it has been discounted or covered up by a scientific community bent on discrediting the Mormon religion.
Okay. Sounds familiar.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that one is just true. So we'll go on to the 4 that might not be.
That one's just a blanket that they do over all of the questions.
It seriously is. Okay, one readily.
It's actually just on the stationery, right? And you just type in the body of the letter underneath it.
It's on the back of your business card if you work for fairmormon.org. B. One readily available and oft underappreciated source of steel is fallen meteorites. These very common objects could easily be the source of the steel referred to in the Book of Mormon.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
C. Clearly, we're talking about copper and iron here, guys. Why are you being such dicks? D. After the Nephite genocide chronicled in the Book of Mormon, chronicled in the Book of Mormon and the Book of Moroni, the surviving Lamanite tribes fell completely under the influence of Satan, with no Nephite left to help them find their way. As they descended into the blood cults and cannibal tribes that Columbus found in 1492, they hoarded and hid all the remaining steel and brass. Before it could be used or traded, the continued internecine warfare of the Lamanites forever hid the evidence of these caches of ancient alloys.
Okay. As many of you might know, Uncle Doug and I recently were on a Gamcast where we saw what happens to a world where a righteous white person is not there to guide the duskier races. So I think that certainly resonates with me right now. So I'm going to go with that one.
There's one more.
Oh,
there's one more.
Shit.
The evidence of hematite, magnetite, and ilmenite in the Waxahachie Valley from around 1200 BCE prove that there was a fairly sophisticated metallurgical culture in the Americas that we have only scratched the surface of.
I'm still going that there wasn't a white person to keep them righteous. So therefore they what? They lost it all.
Yep, they buried it and then went to war with each other and forgot about it.
That's what you should do. If you have really decent metal, before going to war, just chuck it. Get rid of all that stuff because it's just going to weigh you down with your elephant bone spear.
What I was going to say is that it's probably buried with all the horse carcasses and the elephant bones.
Boy, when they turn over that rock, what a day of jubilee it will be.
It does make one want to go down to Central America and like dig a giant hole and dump a whole bunch of like horse and elephant and
total. We should just go to a hardware store and buy a bunch of like yard implements. But it is pretty funny how obsessed with things being buried and undiscovered are a people whose founder and original prophet spent many of his days looking for things buried and hidden underground.
It's the original sin of Mormonism.
Right.
They keep going back to that bag of tricks, man. So I'm going with they were too black to do the right thing.
All right, Dan.
Wait, what were some of the first ones? I've lost the plot a little bit.
Okay, the scientists are dicks.
Yes.
Meteorites. We're talking about copper and iron. Don't be dicks about it. They were too black and brown to be good people, and there was a lot of metallurgy going on at the time. So fuck off.
I'm going to say it's the wrong metals. That it was actually iron and copper the whole time.
Dan, you win by default.
Fuck.
The only one that was made up is the one that Mark went for.
It just, look, you can never go wrong with the racism angle. Never, ever.
Oh, awesome. So, Dan, you're 10 up.
Woo.
All right, we've got one more. Number 4. This is the last one for today.
Okay,
this is the lightning round.
Shaking it off.
Yeah, it's double points, so Mark could even come out of this tied.
All right.
Okay.
The Jews.
Ding, ding. Okay. Last but not least, number 4, the Seer Stone, or Peep Zone versus the Urim and Thummim.
Oh,
I like that you said the peep zone.
The Peep Zone.
That's
That's where we were last night.
That's the color commentary sportscast of the translation of the Book of Mormon.
That's right.
The Peep
I like
Zone.
to think it's like the cool teen Book of Mormon learning night. Come to the Peep Zone. Get wick-a-wick.
Okay, back to the story. The Urim and Thummim, which were buried with the golden plates and used in the translation of the Book of Mormon, were thought to be what Joseph Smith used to translate that ancient tome of Reformed Egyptian. Before it was revealed in 2015 that he actually used, at some points, a peepstone, or a small rock, that he put inside a hat to look at. So, the Seer Stone versus the Urim and Thummim. How do Mormons square that circle?
Oh.
All right, A.
Wait, I'm going to cheat. They don't. But go on with your little game.
All right, A. As Joseph learned how to use the Urim and Thummim, his skills became honed, and before long, he didn't need the cumbersome apparatus, but instead only needed something to focus his attention. He therefore turned his luck to his luckstone, much like people using a singing bowl to clear their mind before meditation.
Wow.
All right?
Okay.
B. The Urim and Thummim was always a decoy. As word grew about the golden plates and the enemies of Joseph conspired against him, he invented the Urim and Thummim because he knew that his enemies would seek such a mystical device above all else, and this gave him more time for the translation.
Oh, I love that. It's I'm not stupid, you're stupid. You're the stupid one to think that's even real, because when I said it, I didn't mean it was real, just to see how dumb you are. Stupid.
All right, C. The
Racism.
The Urim and Thummim was defective. Although useful, the apparatus had become damaged in Moroni's journey to the hill Cumorah and been further damaged in the 1400 years it lay below the surface of the earth. Because it had become miscalibrated and there was no one on the earth that could fine-tune it,
That it was ever calibrated.
it took Joseph considerable concentration to use it and even caused him migraines and nightmares. This explains part of his frustration when Martin Harris lost the original 116 pages of the translation, as this would mean many more hours of covering already finished work. After much prayer and pleading, the Lord gave Joseph an increased level of discernment that allowed him to use the seer stone rather than the cumbersome Urim and Thummim.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. D. The seer stone was part of the Urim and Thummim. Although vague in its description, the stones that made up the eyepieces of the Urim and Thummim were not opaque or clear, but solid stone. As Joseph's skill grew, he was able to remove one of these stones and use it more like a monocle for the translation. This enabled him to stay one step ahead of his enemies while he finished the translation.
As was the fashion of the time.
It's the Mr. Peanut theory.
Wow. Okay, so in brief.
Okay, well, there's one more. E. The translation of the Book of Mormon was always miraculous and inside Joseph's head. The vehicle of the translation matters not at all. It's the fruit of the effort that matters. So,
I like fruit.
in review, he got so good at it, he didn't need it anymore. The whole thing was a decoy. It was defective. The seer stone was part of the Urim and Thummim, or it doesn't matter how he did it, just that he did it.
I like the last one because the last one's just shut up. It could be summed up as just you didn't do it right. Shut up.
I just love the idea that this thing that lets you see into the earth and the Google Translate of the pre-Columbian world was miscalibrated, which I think is hilarious. I'm going to go for all of the above.
Okay? Dan?
It's just, I mean, that does feel like a cheat, but I'm going to let him get away with it. I'm going to go with the second to last one. What was that one?
It was part of the Urim and Thummim.
Yeah,
and he just took it out and used it kind of as a remote piece.
I'm doing that one just because I always heard, because even when I was a Mormon, I had heard of both of the things, and I always just conflated the two. I always just thought that the thing, the peepstone was what the Urim and Thummim was.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys into a little secret here. In preparing this bit, I looked up the anachronism that was the seer stone versus the Urim and Thummim.
Yeah.
Made up all 5 of these apologetics, and then looked at the fairmormon.org to see if I'd matched on any of them. And I did not. They're all
really?
fake. Really? Fake, yep.
Well, that's fucking shitty. I was going to take the square here.
The closest one is that he became so good at it he didn't need it.
Right.
But it never it just was like, well, it was this and then it was that.
Oh, God.
So all of those are fake and made up.
Wow, that was a cheat.
That was a cheat.
So now listeners might be interested to know that this is a recent apologetic, correct?
2015.
Yeah, 2015. What we all believe, well, I never believed, but believers believed that it was a giant pair of spectacles, right?
Like attached to a breastplate.
Somehow attached to a breastplate that was 3 feet wide.
Right.
And that he put the whole breastplate over his head?
No one knew. I never saw it depicted well in the...
And then all of a sudden, on the front page of the newspaper was a little brown rock that looked like a little dog poo. And the story, we just suddenly were at war with East Asia. It was just different now.
Yep.
Right?
No, it was a peepstone. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that was the rock in the hat.
Yeah.
And that happened in 2015.
15.
And part of that was
kind
because
of nutty.
Part of the reason that all came to light was because there had been these underground rumblings for decades about, but we know that Joseph used these peepstones. He talked about it. We have these little, references to it all throughout these writings, and the church had just quietly ignored that for as long as they could. And then the internet came along and tried to ruin everything. And in their attempt to help Mitt Romney get the presidency and also not look like crazy people, they had to start writing these essays that sort of explained a lot of the stuff that people online were revealing, and that's when this rock came out. That's when they trotted out the rock.
Yep.
This little milk dud that appeared in the newspaper, and
I think it's a jade egg. Actually, I think if you put it in your poos,
They should have watched it. I think. I don't think they're helping. It's funny. I don't know that they're helping. I don't
know that there is a way out.
They're damned if they do. They're damned if they don't.
Yeah.
If they continue along the road of just it being an insane, weird lie, or try to explain it away, I don't think there's. I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't explain it away. I'd just say, "Fuck it. It's a breastplate with."
It is what it is. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if there's
boys,
one thing that we can
is,
learn in modern times, it's that all you have to do if people claim that they have proof that you're not telling the truth is yell the words "fake news" as often and as loud as you can, and then you win.
Right. Yeah. No shit. That should be the name of our game. So anyway, Doug, Square That Circle was a lot of fun.
Well, and if I'm not here next week, you'll know that I sent this on to fairmormon.org and they called me back.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Well,
thanks, Doug.
Best of luck with your new life, Doug. Let's move on.
Moving on.
Oh, hello there, Uncle Dan.
Oh, I didn't see you there, Uncle Mark. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you didn't see me here behind all of this love and support we get from our friends and listeners.
It's a wall insurmountable. It's a beautiful thing, and yes, all of our listeners, our favorite ones are the ones who are willing to give us just a little bit of their money every week.
Yes, and our poor listeners are also our favorites, just not as favorites.
Great. 100% are total favorites, but not as much. And that's
by a little.
Right. By just a little bit. And so now is the time when we need to say thank you to some specific people who have decided to squeeze their personal trust funds just a little bit so that we can have some of that money. I'm going to start off by thanking Matthew. Thank you to I'm going to say Dylan. Yep. Okay. And sorry, there was a little smudge on my screen, and I thought it said DeLion for a minute, but I'm not sure. I think it's Dylan.
DeLion. Thank you, DeLion.
Thank you, DeLion. Thank you so much to Jessica. And then there's two more that we have to thank. And you have to give a saint, a patron saint to David.
David, thank you so much for your support. That means the world to us, and therefore we beatify you with Saint Minerva of Canterbury, who is the patron saint of front-lacing corsets and commemorative wooden fraternity paddles. So congratulations. I think you'll really enjoy that saint.
Yeah, that's a very what a treat that is for you, David. You're very, very lucky. And I'm going to give
a saint of a very disciplined saint. I will say.
Yes,
that.
Indeed. And I'm going to give a saint to Elias, who is a giver on that same level, and that saint is Saint Jim of Reykjavik. And Saint Jim of Reykjavik is the patron saint of very shiny metallic stickers, truck nuts, and dangling foliage. So
foliage, and that means foliage that is pointing downward.
Yeah, anything that comes from above and falls toward you, which are, as we know, is the best of all of the foliage. You want
exactly right. It's the best one to hide in for an ambush. So that's excellent.
Well, and everybody, I mean, look at Tarzan, for Christ's sake. How would he even get through the forest if he didn't have the vines hanging down for his convenience?
Really makes you think.
It really does. It really does. All of these people went to howtoheretic.com and clicked on that Patreon button. It's super easy, and we are. It's the only way that we actually make any money doing this thing at this point. So, and they get saints, and they many of them get access to the show early, which is really that's the key to the whole thing. But thank you.
And if you're insanely generous, you get a heaven that you really are going to want to avoid if you can.
Right. So
and throw some money in that kitty. And if you can't do that, we still love you a little bit. So just go to iTunes or any place where you can rate podcasts. Please give us a 5-star review, and we will write your name in the stars. That's very kind. And keep on listening and keep on contributing, and we'll keep trying to bullshit our way through another show.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Well, Uncle Doug.
Uncle Mark.
We are joined today. We have a quorum, and we are joined today by our friend and dear uncle, Uncle Dan.
Hello,
all
down
those in
there, Uncle
favor?
Dan.
All those in favor, affirm.
By the raising of the uplifted hand.
I don't know. Dan's got a how-to up his sleeve, and I don't know exactly what it is, and I'm excited to delve into it because rumor has it that it's a little bit of a free-form philosophical version of our how-to.
Do tell, Uncle Dan.
We're getting beatnik here, fellas. We're gonna go. We're gonna go freeform. We're gonna get it loosey goosey. We're just gonna have some fun. Because here's the thing. I was just today, last night and today, in a bit of a conversation with someone that I know that's dear to me, who's going through a really rough time, and I had very little to offer her in terms of comfort. But we were talking, it's part of it turned, and just on my end, to an exploration of the question of what gives life meaning when you don't have God. Now, as someone who's been doing atheist-themed podcasting, and then before that, atheist-themed blogging for years now, I have become the de facto out and proud atheist in all of my friends' lives. And so whenever the believers among them want to sort of marvel at my non-theism, they'll ask me the question, well, what gives your life meaning? And I've heard that question so much. So I thought, maybe this is a thing that we should discuss, is how to meaning. How to go through your life now that you don't have divine purpose guiding you.
Yeah, now that you're devoid of a lot of Iron Age fairy tales that really aren't very good. How do you put? And I'm not being too flippant there, but we've convinced ourselves, as Doug explored a little bit in his apologetics game. We've convinced ourselves that there is great meaning in those stories. Our job at the Heretic here is to show that there really isn't. So one way to look at it is to say to religious people, you have no more meaning from those stories than anybody has from not having those stories.
You've hit on something really important, and that is that all of these people who talk about, I don't know how you feel like your life has any meaning now that you don't believe in God. Guess what, dude? God doesn't give life much meaning. I mean, there's this whole sense of, they like to talk about how, God gives divine purpose to my life or whatever. Does he? And if he does, is that purpose worth anything? Because it's not your own. You don't have anything to do with that purpose. That's some other dude's purpose. And and at best, the purpose that being a divine son or daughter of God it gives you is in relation to something else. Like, the best purpose you've got is I get to be, I don't know, a nice little boy. I get to be a good little boy. I don't know. I don't know what that gives me.
It's strange to me because on this show especially, we take books of the Bible, stories from religion, etc., and pull them apart and try and find the nugget of morality or truth or words to live by. And oftentimes we find either nothing or things that are truly dreadful.
Right.
And so for some strange reason, it's incumbent on people who don't believe in any of these fairy tales to come up with the meaning of the universe when it's not incumbent on the people who say they have the meaning to actually reveal it.
Right.
If you're religious and you believe in these stories, you should be the one to have to say what you think the purpose and meaning of life is. And, it shouldn't be incumbent on people who don't believe in the fairy tales of Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy to have that. I think it's a strange reversal that we're the ones who are thought of as not having meaning when it's really we're the ones who spend our time examining that meaning and ourselves far more than most religious people do.
Well, when I was a Mormon, and you guys remember being Mormons, when we were all Mormons, I was told that the meaning of this life, of this mortal existence, this earthly sort of pit stop in our eternal journey, was that it was a test. We were basically being quizzed on, are we good enough to live exalted lives later on?
Right.
And frankly,
who was it that said? Sorry to interrupt 1 sec, Dan, but who?
Yeah.
I think you said, Doug. It was the Mormons call it mortal probation.
Yeah.
Which is just a horrendous way to look at life. But go ahead. The mortal probation.
It's so stupid. I mean, an omnipotent, an all-knowing God has to somehow put us through our paces in order to determine if we're good enough. He can't just know that we're good enough or whatever. First of all, that I find a deeply unsatisfying answer to the question, what is the purpose of my life? Like, if the purpose of my life is, can I be good enough to pass this test?
Right.
I find that deeply unsatisfying. I don't know about you guys.
I would go you one further and call it very unfair, because the consequences of screwing up are eternal.
Right.
If I take a bad turn, or I have a bad week, or I do something bad to somebody, and before I can atone for it or whatever, I die, I'm fucked.
Right.
It's such a rigged test.
And it's so rigged that, like, not only are you fucked if you don't do it right, but you've been created in such a way that you are fatally flawed on all of these points, and somehow you have to overcome the manner in which you were created, and be better than the creation of the person who created you, who is also the person conducting the test. It's ridiculous.
It's as Christopher Hitchens says, what kind of loving God creates you sick and commands you to be well?
Right.
Right. So I think that, and I've observed for years, growing up unhappily in Mormonism and just wanting out, I observed all the people around me. And, my incredibly dysfunctional family, my, relatives, the people in my community, everybody was a fucking Mormon, right? Everybody around me. So, but I observed what they thought was meaning. Meaning to them was obeying the fucking rules. And I think they mistook the deep philosophical search for truth and meaning and the struggle. They didn't want that. What they did was they stuck to a bunch of rules, and they thought that's what meaning was.
And if you look at their individual lives, if you look at the individual lives of these believers who say that they've got so much meaning from their belief, it doesn't look like they have meaning from their belief.
Statistically, they're no better off, if not worse, than any atheist or secular population in
but not
terms
only
of
that,
happiness index, etc.
Right, but not only that, if what's giving you meaning is your belief in God and your relationship to God and your belief, your relationship to your set of dogma, then shouldn't every bit of your life be devoted and dedicated to that? If that's the only thing that gives you meaning, why aren't you out proselytizing for the rest of your life only? But no, they're paying their bills, they're driving their kids to work, to soccer or whatever, to school, they're going to work, they're shuffling papers around. It's clearly not what they're saying it is. The thing that's giving them meaning is not the thing that they're actually that they're believing is giving them meaning. So,
and this goes to one of the most common tropes that you kind of encounter as an atheist talking to religious people, and it's you guys will recognize this instantly. It's, well, if you're an atheist, why do you get out of bed in the morning, or why don't you just kill people? Which and we've all encountered that many, many times. And the easiest answer to that is, you mean you would if you didn't, if you were not a religious person, is that what you would do? Of course not.
Right.
It's just,
but it speaks to an insecurity about that, right? Like that question says everything about the questioner and nothing about you or me.
Correct.
Right. What in the world? How close to the jagged edge of a killing spree are you at any moment?
Right.
But the Sermon on the Mount somehow stops you.
Exactly.
Right? Or something in the book of Ezekiel prevents you from just fucking running amok with your dick out. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't. That's it. That also is. It comes from an enormous place of ignorance,
Right.
where they may think that it is their religion that stops them from murdering,
Right.
but chances are it is an ethical code that is outside of religious belief.
It's the same thing that stops secular people from murdering. It's a terrible thing to do.
Right. Well,
It's
and
cruel.
we can sort of, really reasonable minds may differ on what it is that keeps us all sort of in a pro-social mindset. But I do want to talk. But it does seem to be just a function of being a human rather than a function of being a human with a magic heavenly daddy.
Right.
And
Who believes in a flying horse or whatever. Yeah.
So, as in the early part of the 20th century, as philosophy sort of discovered this notion that maybe there's no God, and what does that mean? Of course, that gave rise to absurdism, and it gave rise to existentialism, and all of these ideas. And I did want to touch on sort of one of the points that gets the most scary for people, and that is that if my life has no meaning, and it doesn't appear to me that there is no inherent meaning to anybody's life, because we are just specks on a rock hurtling through space among billions of other rocks, and it's like, in the end, the universe doesn't care about Hitler. The universe doesn't care about the most important things in our lives. The universe doesn't give a shit about. So
it only cares about white girls and their Saturday afternoons. We know that's true. That's true.
I mean, Kim Kardashian matters. The rest of us don't. So what do we do now that we've acknowledged that we don't matter? Camus.
First of all, I think. Yeah, sorry.
I was about to launch into Camus. So if you've got something to say, say it before we get there.
When I heard Camus, I stepped the fuck back. but I think I just want to punctuate what you just said. The point of what you just said. I think there is so much significance in the acknowledgement of the insignificance. There's such great power in having a realistic view of what you are. Yeah. In the physical universe. And yes, there's lots of rocks flying around, and yes, there's lots of stuff, but there's mostly nothing, right? The most of what's out there is the nothing.
Right.
And we touched on this very briefly with our friend Aaron Ra when he came on the show, which is there is so much beauty in that understanding, and there's so much... The fact that people are afraid to acknowledge that we are primates, the fact that people are afraid to acknowledge that we share DNA with cabbages and coral, right. is so strange and fearful to me when I think there's nothing more beautiful than the improbability of all of this coming together and us happening and having this brief window of consciousness, and some of us actually having a fairly decent go at it. Whereas that's not always been the case, and it still does not remain the case that everybody has a decent go of it. So it's a beautiful thing to know that everything you understand will disappear and not matter in 100 years. So that acknowledged, let's go to Camus.
Well, I feel like that's where we're headed. What all of what you just said is sort of where I'm aiming my gun here. But I wanted to move through some of the sort of the past thinking and how we got to this point. And Albert Camus is part of that. His sort of titular book or long essay, the myth of Sisyphus, is part of this. And you'll recall that Sisyphus was the mythological, I guess Greek. I'm thinking Greek.
Yes.
Myth.
Yeah, we talked about the labor of Sisyphus in our when we talked about Tartarus, the Greek hell.
Right. So Sisyphus was doomed forever to push a boulder up a hill, and then it would roll back down, and he would have to go get it and push the boulder back up the hill. And Camus discussed that as being sort of the perfect metaphor, or a possible metaphor for human life without any sort of meaning. And he asked the question, is this a life worth living? what he did is he said, look, if we have no meaning that we can see, we can either jump to a conclusion, and the conclusion is that there is a God beyond this world who who there's much more meaning than we can see and than we can know, and we have to hold tightly to that idea. Or maybe we have to commit suicide because meaninglessness is terrible. And Camus proposed that there's a middle ground where meaninglessness doesn't mean that we have to commit suicide, but rather it's just sort of part of life, and we just have to acknowledge it and live with it. So Camus proposed...
That's where goths come from.
Right, yes, well, something like that. That's one of the stages of absurdism, and then you have to move through that too. So so Camus sort of the basic idea is that it's about the hour of walking back down the hill to get your boulder. That's the moment of sublimeness. That's the moment that you can be thinking about whatever, that you can just be in thought, be in relation to your life. And and then you hit the boulder again and you move back up the hill. I don't know that that's my favorite way of looking at it. But that's sort of a nutshell wrapping up of Camus. I think that I'm more in the sort of Uncle Mark way of looking at things. And I think what we've come to as a philosophical society of non-believers is just that. We all have to sort of, it's not that we all have to find our own meaning, but we all have to find what makes our lives worthwhile, and that's individual. And you have to find the things that mean something to you. It's not what gives your life meaning. It's because your life honestly has no meaning, or that could be a thought. But it's what gives your life purpose, and it's what makes you happy. And that's important.
And I think the three of us have reached a level of, amongst many other people who've escaped religion, you kind of get to that epiphany point where you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe the universe doesn't owe me an explanation. And maybe the sublimeness of our relation to not only the plants and animals around us, but the stars above us is physically real and significant. But what we're contending with people who are just leaving religion is, imagine if you grew up and believing that Santa Claus was real, and you believed this into your adult life.
Right.
And so there was a judge who was rewarding good behavior and punishing bad behavior. He was the source of good things for you. You persisted in that belief into your adulthood. Imagine the psychological damage. I mean, it's hard enough for 8-year-olds to dispel that myth, right? Yeah. It's hard enough for them to let go of that and kind of embrace a much larger and darker, potentially darker worldview that there is no big judge out there. And that it's their parents giving them, their imperfect parents that give them gifts once a year.
I love that it's just a little aside, that's disappointing. Right. Oh, it's just from those assholes.
But see, that's the funny thing.
Presents.
That's what's so crazy and it's disappointing to adults when they leave religion that there's not a larger force out there judging, and because that's comforting in a very dark and sadistic way. So, people have to let go of that, and it's hard to let go of it. It's been programmed into you.
Yeah, exactly right. Like when you just sit there and think that there is nothing between us and the cold fucking vacuum of space, but what, a mile and a half or a few miles of gas.
Right.
There's nothing there, and if you really start thinking about that, you can get yourself worked up into a pretty existential state of terror.
Right,
and that's what religion does for people. Is it keeps you from thinking about that shit.
Right.
You give up so much of your life, and in exchange you get all the answers.
Correct.
You don't have to wrestle with them. And so I think
it's insulation against some very scary thoughts.
That is absolutely true.
Right. That your children, the very lamentable possibility that one of your children dies, that they're not someplace where they're loved and safe and free from disease, right? They're just dead.
Right. Yeah.
Or your parents or your loved ones. So I think what's really very clearly hard for a lot of people leaving religion is they think that all the space inside of them that the religion filled is going to instantly get filled by something else.
Right.
Right? That same blanket is going to be there, but in a different form.
Right.
And chances are it's not going to be. And it requires a bit of a rewiring of your brain to go, when people ask me, they find out about our podcast or whatever, people at work, and they're like, well, where do we go after we die? And I say, I don't know, but neither does the Pope or the Dalai Lama. Right. And it is embracing the uncertainty. It is embracing, and it's accepting that you may never actually find capital M meaning. Right. You may never. There is not somebody sitting on top of a mountain that you're going to climb one day who's going to tell you what the meaning of life is. You're just going to have to. You're probably going to have to, patch it together yourself and find what is meaningful to you, and that's not easy if every philosophical conundrum has been pre-chewed for you prior.
I agree with that completely. However, on the other side of that coin, have you guys been to the Field Museum in Chicago?
No.
It's one of the greatest natural history museums on the planet. But imagine any natural history museum. To go to one of those as a religious person, which I did, and to wander those halls and have to look at every one of those little placards and try and figure out how to hammer that square peg into the round hole of my stupid faith.
Yeah.
Right.
And then to go back as a non-religious person and just bathe in this the glory and the knowledge and the lack of knowledge about all of these things is a wholly expansive experience compared to the stifling. It's just hard to get there. Once you're there, there's no going back.
Right.
But the journey, to your point, Dan, the journey from having all the answers and all being wrapped up in the center of a warm little tiny universe, and then stepping into what is the vastness of our current actual universe is pretty scary.
Yeah, it's so funny to me because there's this notion that, and again, the other question that I always hear is, well, you got to believe in something bigger than yourself. I hear this from other atheists who believe in something that, that they call a higher power, or they believe in an energy or whatever. And they're like, but you got to believe in something bigger than yourself. To which I point at everything around me and go, it's all bigger than me.
Right.
Point at the
mountain,
sun. That's there.
The sun, everything's bigger than me, except the things that are smaller than me. But, I just don't understand why that's none of it's a necessary thing. It is possible to just look at the world, at the universe, at the physical reality around us, at the natural order of things, and say that's enough. That's plenty.
Yeah.
We don't need any more.
That's more than enough. Yeah.
And to encounter it as it is, with all of the ugliness, while there's gorgeous beauty everywhere, and that's what I seek out because I enjoy it more than the ugliness. I love flowers, and I love a mountain walk, and I love a lake in the spring. And, but I still acknowledge the existence of wasps that drill into people's eyeballs and murder them. You know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff exists at the same time. And all of the things that we love could be gone tomorrow if an asteroid hits. And that's all.
The universe it's neutral. The universe is completely neutral. And it's funny, I was having a very nice chat with an older friend of mine the other day that I work with, and he's kind of an Oprah Winfrey, 800 thread count general religious person, right? The kind of, Buddhism's good, Jesus was nice, not really getting into too many details.
Right.
And the question of God came up, and he said, well, can't God just be in the earth and the trees and all around us? And I was like, sure.
Right.
It can be anything you want.
Yeah.
We all make it up. It's all made up.
Right.
What you just said is as valid as 2,000 plus years of Catholicism. So you do you. Of course, if that gives you meaning, God is in the rocks and the trees. Sweet.
Right.
But all you're doing is just relabeling things.
You're just relabeling things.
You're just taking a bunch of rocks and trees and stuff that are already there and then saying, well, there's God. Well, okay.
Right.
But that doesn't mean anything. It's still rocks and trees and things.
We talked about this, I think, on another episode. Maybe I was on TGIA, but there was this brilliant documentary about a previously unknown species of hominid, of nearly human, that they found in this cave in South Africa. Maybe you guys have seen it. It's called the Morning Star Cave. Yeah. And it was a really strange animal. It had super long arms and weird short body and odd head and everything. But it was a cousin, right? And an artist did a depiction of it walking along the African savanna, however 300, 400,000 years ago, however long ago it lived. And my reaction to seeing that picture was I got so mad. I got so fucking mad at all of the effort that every living fucking thing put into staying alive and reproducing so your stupid Christian ass could be on the earth in 2018 going, everything happens for a reason. Like the randomness, the struggle that creature had to eat, to live, to survive, to understand, right? With a nearly human mind, to understand what was the natural world around it, is just fuck him, right? Fuck them. They didn't exist. There was a flood. That's all I need to know. It's the arrogance of putting us, and by us I mean God, by putting a human mind, a human intelligence at the center of every philosophical question of the universe. Right? It's God. It's God. It's a man, but a Superman.
It's such a cop-out. I agree. That's a really great way of thinking about it, is that we owe it in some degree to the mud skipper, 1.5 billion years ago that first drew oxygen into its proto-lungs. That directly led to us. We owe it to that little fucking thing and the weird long-armed hominid to be real and smarter and to use this enormous brain we have been given.
To not be an idiot, and to not take the simplest possible answer that there's a wizard in the sky who makes everything, who takes babies who died and puts them in an eternal nursery. It's just
as a personal idiot, I'm going to dial you both back and say I don't think we owe it to anybody to do any goddamn thing. Those mud skippers are dead. All of that, evolution doesn't have any meaning either. We're just here.
No, I disagree only that I think they're understanding a thing is respecting a thing in a way. And I think it's understanding the enormous, the oceans of time and fucking and eating and everything that placed you in this place. It is a good thing for you to understand and
I think it's
and
nice
not
to
pretend
appreciate.
didn't happen.
But here's where I'm coming from. One of the things that I wanted to get to that is just sort of has become almost the entirety of my personal philosophy at this point is simply this. I know where this life. I know like two things about this life. One, that I'm doing
this
it
is
right
a testimony.
now. Right. And two, that it's going to end. And I know that. I know that I'm going to die. And there's an end point, and whether that's tomorrow or in 40 years or whatever, or in 130 years, depending on how I do, it's still coming. So my whole thing, and this is sort of what I told my friend online, in this little conversation that started me thinking this morning, which was, look, all I got is this life, and she had asked me, is it worth it? And I said, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't, in terms of all the positive things in my life versus all of the pain and the suffering in my life, in some sort of mathematical calculus of what isn't, did it come out on the plus side or the minus side? I got no interest in that whatsoever. All I know is I've got X amount of time. I don't know what that X stands for, but I know that it ends. And I know that I can just take as much of that as I can and squeeze as much juice out of this life as I possibly can. So I am going to jump out of some airplanes, and I'm going to hike a mountain, and I'm going to see as much of the world as I possibly can, as long as it appeals to me. And I'm going to fuck a bunch of people, and I'm going to love a bunch of people, and I might get into a fight or two. And I'm just going to try life, and I'm going to keep trying it until I'm done. and
until you fail.
Yeah. Well, I've failed plenty. I fail constantly. I am a constant failer. And it doesn't...
I mean, until you fail at staying alive. But yes, I get you.
There's that. But I mean, I love the idea of failing, because the truth of the matter is that one of the things that is so great about not believing in a God is that the failure doesn't matter. I can fail at everything. I can fail 100,000 times, and the trying might be the fun part. So I can relieve myself of so many pressures just by realizing, look, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You know, I wrote a book and nobody wanted to read it. So what? I tried it. You know, I went, I applied for X job and didn't get it. Okay. You know, this life, I know what the destination is already. So it's about the journey. The only thing that's interesting is the journey.
Yeah, so what I think you've presented here is a reverse Pascal's wager. Right?
Okay.
Absolutely, which is, religious people saying to non-believers, well, what if you're wrong? Right? Then you're going to hell.
Right.
Because this particular sect of Christians that worship a resurrected Jew say a certain thing about what to eat on what day of the week, and if you fuck that up, you're going to hell. Right? What if you're wrong? So I would say what you just presented is the reverse of that, or the inverse of that, which is, okay, well, what if you're wrong? What if, as we were talking about our Mormon friends earlier, this life is just the waiting room for the next life.
Right.
So you'll sacrifice any risk-taking, any fun, any exploration, any of that stuff, because maybe on the other side of the coffin is, one of our heavens.
Right.
And I think that's a disgraceful way to look at your own life. Right? What if, indeed...
It's just a really good way to throw it away.
And there's nothing there. Right. Yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Then you've wasted the one little thing you got, the one glimpse of light you had in an uncaring universe.
And let me just to be clear, we don't hate religion because we don't hate religion. We don't kind of espouse our lack of religiosity because of ill will or psychological damage, even though there's plenty of both of those.
Right.
We are applying the brain we have, the brain that exists between our ears, to these dogmas, as you should do with all things. So we tear apart the book of Job using the brain that we have. We attack it at the same level we attack a novel by John Grisham or a movie by Quentin Tarantino. We just find them lacking.
Right.
And life has so much more to offer out there for people that no one we know that has left religion and found the vastness of the universe is tempted to go back because the doctrine sings to them. They're tempted to go back because their families are mean to them. And I guess that's my long-winded way of saying, Dan, I totally agree. I think that this is such, to my mind, having been on both sides of the coin, a far more sublime, interesting, engaging, and meaningful life than I ever found inside religion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to some extent, and I read this today. Somebody said that the trip from believer to non-believer isn't a choice; it's a discovery. For most people, it's not that we chose to stop believing in God; it's that we examined the evidence for long enough to go, "Oh fuck, I think I can't support this belief anymore." So a lot of us are just stuck with it. We didn't choose it. We just realized it. And so now we have to move on with our lives, and we have to find a way to do that with joy, hopefully, and with interest. So I mean, and that's on each of us. Each of us is going to do that differently. Each of us is going to find a different meaning. But it's on you to get out there and just squeeze some juice out of this life. You get it once. You get one shot.
I think what you were talking about just a second ago, which is it's not a choice. It is an inevitable process of of being awake, right? That you are going to there's a high degree of possibility that if you start life religious, you're going to end it not so much. And a perfect example of that was our friend Rabbi Gruber, who was on one of our earlier episodes. Yeah, who was as deeply into. He was a straight up rabbi. He was deeply into Jewish text and mysticism and the Torah as deeply as you could go. And inside of 1 month, he's like, "Yep, I'm not." And again, It wasn't a choice for him. It was simply honestly looking at what the world presented to him as evidence. Right. So, but in that transition, for a lot of people, there is a lot of fear, and I think you're exactly right, Dan. It is just eat what fruit you can while there's fruit to be had, and make hay while the sun shines, because at some point, the sun's going to stop shining for you. And
and also let's
embrace
not forget,
that.
I think that's great. I want to sort of close this out because I think we'll need to revisit this topic many times. But I do want to sort of end with the notion, with the declaration, at least for myself, because I can't speak for everybody, as much as I want to try. I want to say that, like, accepting my own tininess in the universe, my own meaninglessness, my own death, my own understanding that I won't continue after I die, accepting all of those things didn't make me panic. In the long run, it didn't make my life worse. It actually gave me a very deep and very soulful sense of peace. And so I just want to sort of give those of our listeners who may be worried about it as they stare into a void, the assurance that it's not necessarily the stuff of nightmares. It can be the stuff of joy and glory.
Yes, and that void is not staring back at you. It is just a void. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I think we've cracked it. We've found all the answers, and you're welcome, everyone.
We solved it.
We solved it. So now we can move on. Easy enough.
Let's move on. Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you guys. Go ahead and send us an email if you want to, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you have found any meaning whatsoever in anything, leave us a voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. I am also on Twitter at HowToHeretic.
And in spite of your protestations, I do man the Facebook site, and it's okay. It works sometimes.
Yeah, it's very occasional.
Yes. Thanks so much to all of our patrons.
And thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show.
And thank you, dear friends, for tuning in. We sure do appreciate it.
Thanks, friends. Bye.